Welcome to Practical Simulation in Statistics. Simulations help us understand probability and statistics using real or synthetic data. In this lesson, we will go step by step through core probability concepts with simulations, real-world datasets like Titanic and Airline passengers, discrete and continuous distributions, descriptive statistics and handling missing data, sampling, hypothesis testing, correlation, regression, time series, and more. Let us get started on our simulation journey. Running the cell now. As you go along, think about what questions you would use simulation to answer in daily life. Now let us set up our code so we are ready for any simulation. We are importing warnings to turn them off. This keeps the output clean so we can focus. Next, we import math and data libraries needed for the whole lesson. NumPy lets us simulate random events and handle arrays. Pandas helps us work with tabular data easily. Seaborn and Matplotlib let us plot data and see patterns visually. Scipy.stats provides common probability tools. Finally, we set a seed. This makes all random simulations reproducible, so others get the same results. Running the cell now. Try running this block every time you open a new notebook to avoid any confusion from warnings. Probability basics, coin flips and dice. Simulation means trying out what might happen by using code. Let us use Python to simulate coin flips and dice rolls, classic examples of probability. Probability just means, how likely is an event to happen? Running the cell now. Think of a real example, such as the chance of rain tomorrow. That is probability 2. Let us flip a coin 10 times using the computer and see how often it lands on heads. This comment describes our plan to flip a coin 10 times. Here, we ask NumPy to randomly pick 0 or 1, 10 times. 0 is tails, 1 is heads. This line prints the results, so you can see each simulated flip. Now, let us measure what % of flips were heads. We take the average, since ones count as heads, the mean gives us that proportion. This prints out our final answer for heads. Running the cell now. Try changing the number of flips to 100 or 1000. Does the proportion move closer to 0.5 as you increase? Let us now roll a die 20 times, and see how many times we get a 6. The comment tells us we will simulate rolling a 6-sided die 20 times. This creates 20 random numbers between 1 and 6, representing our dice rolls. Printing shows you each roll. Now, we want to find out how often we got a 6. We count all the times rolling a 6, and find that proportion. Here, we output the probability of getting a 6 in our simulation. Running the cell now. Increase the number of dice rolls and watch how the proportion of 6s gets closer to the true probability, which should be about 1 in 6. Descriptive statistics. What do simulations tell us? After simulating, we want to describe our data. Common statistics are mean, which is the average, median, which is the middle value, and standard deviation, which is the spread. These help us get a sense of the data center and variability. Running the cell now. Can you think of a situation where knowing their average is not enough to describe what is going on? Now let us calculate and display simple statistics for our dice results. This comment explains we will describe the dice results. This finds the average of the dice rolls. Here we find the median, which is the value in the center if we lined up all the rolls. This shows the standard deviation, which measures how spread out the results are. Let us also look at how the dice rolls are distributed visually. This makes a histogram, or bar chart, showing the frequency of each roll value. We label the x-axis so we know which number each bar shows. We add a label to the y-axis for frequency. Here we add a descriptive title. Finally, we display the plot to see our histogram. Running the cell now. If your histogram looks uneven, try rolling the dice more times and see how the shape changes. Sometimes, data is not complete. Let us add some missing values to our dice and learn how to handle them. In this line, we convert to a float, so we can include missing values, which are called nan. Now, every fifth dice roll becomes missing. We check if there are any missing values in our dice array. Here, we fill missing values by replacing them with the median, which is a common choice. Finally, we print the new dice rolls with no more missing data. Running the cell now. Try using the mean instead of the median for filling. Does it change your summary statistics? Discrete probability distributions, Bernoulli, binomial, Poisson. Discrete distributions only allow whole number outcomes. Bernoulli is one trial with two outcomes, like flipping a coin. Binomial is many independent trials with two outcomes each, like flipping several coins. Poisson counts events in a fixed period, such as how many emails you get each hour. Running the cell now. Think about which real-life situations can be modeled with these types of distributions. Let us try simulating these three distributions to see what they really look like. The Bernoulli distribution is just a single coin flip. We will try it 8 times here. NumPy helps us generate random ones and zeros just like heads and tails. Here we print the results. Next, we simulate binomial trials, 10 experiments, each with 5 flips, counting how many heads. We print the results to see the variety of outcomes. Now, we simulate a Poisson process, how many emails arrive per hour, with an average of 4 emails, over 12 hours. We print these simulated counts per hour. Running the cell now. Pick one simulation above. Could you use this in your studies or work? Try increasing or decreasing the number of flips or the average rate to see the effect. Let us visualize the outcome so you can see the differences in these three distributions. We prepare a row of 3 plots to compare the distribution side by side. The first histogram shows the results for our Bernoulli coin flips. We add a title so you know which plot is which. The second plot shows the binomial results, how many heads we got in each group of 5. We title this plot as well. The third shows the Poisson counts, or emails per hour, in green. Again, we label it so you can easily tell it apart. We use tight underscore layout so the plots do not overlap. Finally, all 3 histograms appear for you to compare visually. Running the cell now. Notice which distributions are split between 2 values, and which cover many. Which real-life events might each pattern fit? Continuous distributions, normal and exponential. Continuous means values can take any number, not just whole numbers. Normal, or Gaussian, is the famous bell curve found in heights, IQ, and many natural processes. Exponential describes waiting times between random events, like the time until the next bus arrives. Running the cell now. Think of something measured in the real world that forms a bell curve or is about waiting times. Let us create a normal and an exponential sample and see how they look. Here we generate 100 values from a normal distribution with a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. Now we generate 100 waiting times from an exponential distribution. The average wait is 1 time unit. This next group of code plots both distributions next to each other. Here you see the normal curve as a purple bell shape. It gets the correct label, so you know what you are looking at. Now the exponential values show up in red, with most values bunched near 0. We add a title here too. The plots are tidied so nothing overlaps. Now you can compare the different shapes of these distributions side by side. Running the cell now. Try changing the sample size to 1000. Watch how the plots look more and more like the ideal curve as you add more data. Sampling and the central limit theorem. Sampling means taking a smaller part of data to estimate the whole. The central limit theorem says if we take many samples, their means form a bell curve, even if the data is not normal. Running the cell now. Imagine polling a small group to predict the opinion of a whole country, that is sampling. We will build a population that is not bell-shaped, then repeatedly sample it and look at the means. First, we simulate a population of waiting times using an exponential distribution so it is not symmetric. Now we take 500 random samples of size 30 each, measuring their means. We plot the histogram of these means to visualize their distribution. This adds a title explaining what we are seeing. The label tells us this is the average value of each group. We add a frequency label on the y-axis. Here we produce the actual plot. Running the cell now. Can you see the bell curve shape appearing, even though the original waiting times did not have that form? Let us look at the population's original shape. Notice how different it is from the sample means. We plot the histogram of the original population's values, using a neutral color. This adds a clear title to the plot. We label the x-axis as value. We label how many times each value appears. The plot shows up so you can do the comparison yourself. Running the cell now. This visual proof is one of the most powerful ideas in statistics. Try smaller or larger sample sizes to see the effect. Let us bring in some real data. The Titanic dataset is a classic for practicing statistics and simulation. Here, we load the Titanic dataset using Seaborn, which gives us easy access. We print out the number of rows and columns so you know how big the data is. Now, we display the first few rows to see what each column looks like. Running the cell now. Think about which variables in this real dataset could be affected by randomness or chance. Let us use simulation to estimate the survival rate of passengers, just like a real sample survey. We will repeatedly sample 30 passengers at a time, then measure what fraction survived. We do this 300 times. We plot all these sample means to see how much the survival rate may vary across samples. We add a clear title explaining what is being shown. Here is the label for the x-axis, showing the survival rate as a fraction. This label tells us how many samples had each survival rate. We display the histogram so you can check the spread of results. Running the cell now. If you change the sample size, you may see larger or smaller spreads. Practice asking, how much do my results change when I repeat sampling? Confidence intervals, how sure are we? A confidence interval tells us a range for our estimate, like survival rate, with a chosen level of certainty, often 95%. Let us build an interval for Titanic survival using Bootstrap, which means resampling many times. Running the cell now. Can you see why reporting a range can be more honest than just one number? Let us repeatedly sample our data, build the confidence interval, and display it. We do 1000 Bootstrap samples, each of 200 passengers, then find the mean survival rate each time. The lower end of our confidence interval is at the 2.5 percentile. The upper end of our interval is at the 97.5 percentile. We print out both ends so you see the final interval, rounded to 2 decimal places. Running the cell now. Try running this cell several times or changing the sample size. Notice how the interval changes and what that means for your confidence. Hypothesis testing. Did women survive at higher rates? Hypothesis testing asks, is there a real difference, or is this just luck? Let us check if women were more likely to survive the Titanic using a simulation, specifically a permutation test. Running the cell now. Try using a different variable, like passenger class, to ask if the difference is real or random. We will compare survival rates for women and men, then simulate what might happen if gender did not matter. First, we select the survival results for women passengers. Next, we do the same for men. Now, we measure the real difference in average survival between women and men. We combine everyone into one group so we can shuffle their survival labels. Let us run many permutations. We shuffle survival outcomes, then split into two random groups, finding the difference for each. We calculate the p-value, which is the chance of seeing a difference as big as ours, just by luck. Now, we print the actual survival difference. Finally, we print the simulated p-value to help answer the hypothesis. Running the cell now. If the p-value is small, it means the observed difference is unlikely to be just random. Correlation and covariance. Are two things related? Correlation measures how two variables move together, like height and weight. Covariance tells us the direction of the relationship but not the strength. Running the cell now. Look at the Titanic data. Could any variables be connected in a useful way? Let us measure the relationship between age and fare using correlation and covariance. We compute the correlation between age and fare. This measures the strength and direction of their connection. This line gives the covariance, showing if they tend to rise or fall together, but not how much. Here, we show the correlation in 2 decimal places. Finally, we display the covariance, also rounded for easy reading. Running the cell now. Try with other variable pairs in the Titanic data and see which ones are more or less connected. Simple regression, predicting fares. Regression finds patterns for predicting one variable from others. Let us predict the ticket fare using passenger age with linear regression. Running the cell now. Think of something in your life you might want to predict based on a pattern in data. Let us train a simple regression to show the link between age and fare. First, we bring in the linear regression tool from scikit-learn. The comment reminds us we are prepping the data. We create the regression object. For input X, we use the age column and fill missing ages with the average age. The value we predict, Y, is the passenger fare. We fit the regression model so it can find the best line. Here we print the slope, which shows how much the fare changes if age goes up by 1. This prints the intercept, or the predicted fare for age 0. Now we scatterplot the ages and fares for all passengers. On top, we draw the regression line so you can see the fit. Label the horizontal axis for age. Label the vertical axis for fare. Give the whole thing a helpful title. Add a legend so you know which points are data and which line is prediction. Now, you can see everything together in one chart. Running the cell now. Try predicting fare using class, sex, or other features. Notice if the pattern becomes clearer or weaker with more features. Logistic regression. Who survived the Titanic? Logistic regression predicts the chance of an event, like survival, using characteristics such as age, class, and sex. We will predict survival using data from the Titanic. Running the cell now. Write down who you think was most likely to survive based on the data columns. Are your guesses confirmed by the model? Let us set up and run a logistic regression to see if we can predict who survived. Import the tools for splitting data and logistic regression from scikit-learn. Comment: we will use age, class, and sex as predictors. Here we copy out those columns from the data. Missing ages are replaced with the average for that column. We turn the sex column into numbers so the model can use it: 0 for male, 1 for female. The target to predict is whether each person survived. Now, we split our data into a train group and a test group, so we can check our work later. Set up the logistic regression model. Fit or train the model using our training data. Now we measure and print how well the model does on new, unseen data. This gives you an idea of whether the model is useful in practice. Running the cell now. Try adding or removing features from the model and watch how the test accuracy goes up or down. Time series basics, airline passengers over time. Time series tracks changes in something, like daily temperatures or number of passengers, over time. Let us work with real airline passenger data and visualize it. Running the cell now. Can you think of a question you could answer using trends or seasonal patterns in time series data? Let us load some real-time series data, monthly air passengers, and see what patterns appear. We store the online address of a file with real airline passenger data. We read in the file as a pandas table. Let us see the first few rows to check the columns and data types. Now, we plot number of passengers for each month. Label the horizontal axis as month. Label the vertical axis as number of passengers. Give the plot a helpful title. Rotate the month labels so they are easier to read. Adjust the layout so nothing overlaps. Finally, display the chart so you can look for patterns. Running the cell now. Do you notice any upward trend or repeating seasonal patterns in the number of airline passengers? Bayesian introduction, updating beliefs. Bayesian methods use probabilities to update what we believe as we see new data. We can simulate how learning changes what we think about an unknown event, like the chance of rain tomorrow. Running the cell now. Imagine you start with a guess about something unknown, then become more confident each time you get evidence. That is the Bayesian way. Let us see how we can start with a belief, then update it with new coin flip data. We use a beta distribution to start with a guess that any rate of heads is equally possible. We write down a sequence of coin flip outcomes we have observed, ones for heads, zeros for tails. We update our belief. For each head, we become a little more sure the coin lands heads. Each tail has the opposite effect, making us a little less sure. We create a range of probabilities to plot against. This computes our belief before seeing the data. This updates our belief after seeing the flips. We plot what we believed before any data. Now, we plot our updated belief after seeing the data. We label the horizontal axis as the probability of heads. The vertical axis tells us how likely we think each probability is. Add a legend so it is clear which line is which. Label the plot to help you remember what it shows. Now, we can compare how our belief started and how they changed. Running the cell now. Try adding more heads or tails to the data and see how the belief about the coin shifts as you learn more. Mini-project Part 1, Simulate a Probability Experiment. Imagine you toss two coins 1,000 times. Simulate the number of times both land heads and calculate the empirical probability. This is a hands-on chance to model a real event using simulation. Running the cell now. Pause, and think about what the theoretical probability should be for both coins showing heads. Let us simulate tossing two coins 1,000 times and record how many times both land heads. We ask numpy to pick 0 or 1, twice for each of 1,000 trials. Next, we count how many rows have both values equal to 1, meaning both coins are heads. We divide by 1,000 to get the final simulated probability. Here is how many times both came up heads. This prints the observed probability of both heads based on the simulation, rounded to 2 decimals. Running the cell now. If the number is different each time, that is natural. Try running it with even more tosses and see if it moves closer to what math predicts. Also, please subscribe to the channel and share your own mini-experiments below. Mini-project Part 2. Analyze a real dataset. Let us explore the Titanic data by simulating survival rates for each passenger class. We will use simulation to build confidence intervals for each group. Running the cell now. Can you predict right now which class had the highest or lowest survival rate, even before running the analysis? Let us run separate simulations for each class to build 3 different confidence intervals. We loop through each of the passenger classes, first, second, and third. We select only the survival data for each class. For each, we simulate taking 80 passengers at a time and measure the survival rate 500 times. We obtain the lower and upper end of the interval that should catch 95% of our bootstrap samples. For each class, we print out the resulting confidence interval with 2 decimal places. Running the cell now. Use the results to answer which class really did best, and which one needs the most help in our simulation. Let us do a quick practice. This prompt will give you a challenge to try on your own data. This comment reminds you of this step. This print statement invites you to try grouping by sex, creating your own simulation just as we did for class. Running the cell now. Share your results and questions in the comments below to help others learn. Best practices and troubleshooting. Always set a random seed to make simulations reproducible. Visualize your simulated results to spot unexpected outcomes early. Use larger sample sizes for smoother results, but smaller ones to see more randomness. Double-check your simulation logic against known probabilities. If something looks strange, go step by step and print results to debug. Running the cell now. Everyone makes mistakes sometimes. Debugging is part of the scientific process. Extra tips. Try simulating a process in your own field, such as sports, weather, or sales. Explore built-in datasets from Seaborn for fast practice. Write a function for repeated simulation steps to make your code reusable. Running the cell now. Remember, there is no substitute for actually running the simulations and seeing the results yourself. Challenge exercises. 1. Simulate rolling 2 dice 5,000 times and find the percent that both show 6. 2. Use the airline passenger data and plot a moving average to see trends. 3. Try running a hypothesis test on the TIPS dataset, grouping by smoker versus non-smoker. Feel free to share your code or results with others. Running the cell now. Taking on small challenges is one of the fastest ways to become confident with statistics simulations. Recap what we learned with simulations. Simulations let us model chance and uncertainty in code. We saw probability basics, discrete and continuous distributions, sampling, and confidence intervals. We practiced with the Titanic and Airline data. Simulation shines when theory is too hard or we want to test an idea fast. Keep exploring. Your understanding grows with every experiment. Running the cell now. Which simulation example was most useful or interesting to you? Thank you. Subscribe for more Python stats. If you found this hands-on guide helpful, please like this video. Subscribe for more Python and data science tutorials. Drop your questions and experiences in the comments. Happy simulating. Running the cell now. We hope you learned something new today, and we look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.